All right, hi everyone. Thank you for joining me for this live stream. I've been wanting to do a live stream for a little while. I was actually just planning to do videos today, but unfortunately the weather is not cooperating. It's raining a lot. That's also why the lighting's a little different. I don't have lights. So let's talk about this. We have three great stories for today's live stream. We're going to talk about Isaacman's renomination for NASA administrator, all the different things going on with 3I Atlas, that interstellar comet, and then we're going to discuss whether or not the Andromeda galaxy will collide with the Milky Way. So, let's get into it. So, thank you for joining this live stream. So, let's talk about this. So, Jared Isaacman's renomination for NASA administrator. So, first of all, obviously, if you don't know, he why this is a renomination is he was nominated last year, shortly after Trump became president, and so but there was fallout, as we will get to with this picture with him and Elon Musk. So let's talk about all that. So first of all, who is Jared Isaacman? So Jared Isaacman is the billionaire founder of an electronic company, payments management company, and payments company called Shift4. So that's Shift4. It is a multi-billion-dollar company. I looked up their market cap for this live stream. It's like 5.8 billion, at least was the number that I got. So it's a very successful company. He founded that actually when he was just 16 years old. And so that's really fascinating. So that's Jared Isaacman. So how did this all start? So Jared Isaacman, why is he really well known? So first of all, yes, he founded Shift4, but he also went to space two times with SpaceX on the Inspiration 4 and Polaris Dawn missions. There were also other commercial astronauts. Some SpaceX employees went a couple of times. I know at least on Polaris Dawn. I didn't cover Inspiration 4. I didn't have the channel at that time. So, at least on Polaris Dawn, they made a lot of history. They made history, I believe Jared did this. Yeah, Jared did the spacewalk, made history for the longest spacewalk. So it broke the record of one of the Apollo missions. And then also, he broke the record. I believe that was also, yeah, it was also the farthest. So, so let's talk about all this. And so also why I'm doing this live stream. What is all this really about? So, as I said, he had been renominated shortly after, or he had been nominated shortly after Trump became president. So the first time, his NASA administrator for his first term was a guy called Jim Bridenstine, but for his second term, he nominated Jared Isaacman. So, why did he do this? So, it's interesting. His vision for space, it's kind of complicated. I don't know how much all of this is him, and some of it's clearly not just him. So we'll get into this. So NASA in Trump's second term it has, I assume you've heard by this time, I've talked about it in other places, is doing something called the Artemis program. We're trying to go back to the moon. The US is trying to go back to the moon. Now, this is obviously something that's been in the works over other administrations, but it seems like, hopefully at least, Trump's administration, this time, his second one, is going to be the one where we actually go back to the moon. Maybe we go to Mars. At least, I don't think during his time we're not going to send humans to Mars, but hopefully we'll start doing like preemptive supply missions for Mars during his term. We'll see how all that works out. It has a lot to do with obviously the progress of SpaceX's Starship program, which had a lot of success. Flights 10 and 11, as I'm going to cover in other videos, were incredibly successful. So I'll have my flight 11 breakdown, and flight 10, I'll go back and do that as well shortly. So have those up shortly in the future. But those were incredibly successful. I think flight 10 was really kind of the turning point, and that's super fascinating because everything went well on flight 10, except I forget. I think Flight 10 was the one where they had trouble deploying the Starlink dummy satellites, but everything went well. I think that was the only issue on Flight 10. Everything went well on Flight 11 when they deployed those satellites and all of that. So that's super fascinating. But yeah, so Trump has renominated Jared Isaacman, and we got news a couple of days ago, actually. I don't know if yet, I believe it was actually just yesterday, that he's going to have his first Senate confirmation hearing with a committee 2 weeks from now. So, yeah, so it was a, oh, actually, hold on. No, okay, okay, yeah. So December 3rd is going to be his first confirmation hearing. It's one of the Senate committees, and then he'll have to do, I believe it's like the Commerce Committee or something like that. So, that's his first committee hearing, and then obviously he'll go through other ones if he has to. I think that may be the only one, but and then eventually, obviously, the full Senate hearing. So, let's get back to this topic of why is he being renominated. So, and that gets into, okay, I don't have the picture up here. Let's see, I'll get it. Here it is, yes. So, Donald Trump and Elon Musk. So, obviously, if you followed the 2024 election, and really over the past few years, but it came to a head during the 2024 election and then beyond. So, because Elon Musk has donated a lot to Democratic causes in the past. So this 2024 election was kind of really a turning point where he really started to do a lot for the Republican Party. Although I think in the past he's like voted and donated to Democratic causes, but I believe he was officially an independent, but now he's doing more for Republican causes. So let's talk about all of this. So, yes, and he donated hundreds of millions of dollars to Trump's reelection campaign, and obviously he bought Twitter, what he is now calling X, and that was a huge it had a huge impact as well on that. So, So that was definitely a big thing because I mean X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it is one of the big social media platforms. There's X, there's Instagram, there's Facebook. There's also Snapchat, but that's a different kind of thing. So that was a huge thing, and there were many factors that handed Trump the election, which we're not getting into all that. That's not the purpose of this, but that was one of the main things. But unfortunately, for a lot of people, after the 2024 election, they had a falling out, and that led to Jared Isaacman's nomination being pulled. Trump said that it was because he didn't feel like now Jared aligned with his vision for space, but it was really due to this falling out between Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Because, again, as I said, one of the major reasons, probably the major reason really, that Jared was first nominated was due to Elon's lobbying. So, and again, I think he's an incredible pick. So I think Jared Isaacman's an incredible pick for NASA administrator. I'm going to do more videos on this next week as we get closer to that first confirmation hearing, which may be the only confirmation hearing before it goes to a full Senate confirmation hearing, but I will have to check and I will certainly keep you all updated. So that's just a fascinating turn of events there. So, because the reason that they had this falling out was because of a major piece of legislation the Republicans passed, what they called the Big Beautiful Bill. It had a lot of Trump's priorities like tax cuts, deregulation, border security, all of that in it. But one of really the thing that there were other things. Elon didn't like a lot of other things that Trump was doing, but the repealing of the EV tax credits was really, I think, kind of what pushed him over the edge a little bit. So let me see where it is. I had it. Maybe it's one of these. Is it one of these? Yes. So again, because Elon runs Tesla, right? And they're like the biggest electric vehicle manufacturer. I know BYD is also super big, but they're, heavily backed by the Chinese government. So that obviously makes a difference. Whereas Tesla is a private company, or well, they're traded on the stock market, but they're not affiliated with the government in any way. The US government does not support them. So, and much less so now because of these subsidies going away. I do think that ultimately that is a good thing for a fair market, but you do also have to then get rid of fossil fuel subsidies. And then it's just like we also have other like electricity subsidies as well. And it's like, really, you should just get rid of all subsidies. You should not be manipulating the market in any way. So that was why that happened. So now let's look at this. So, what do I think that Jared Isaacman could do as NASA administrator? So, let's look at something called Project Athena. Now, this is not a public document, which is why I'm not going to be showing the document because I don't have it, because again, it's not public. So, oh, I got into AI. I don't want that. So, Project Athena was supposedly Jared's plan for transforming NASA. So, in general, what he wanted to do was just cut out on all of the bureaucracy, cancel the Space Launch System, or not cancel it, but phase it out, like phase it out after Artemis 3 and different things like that. Consolidate a lot of the NASA centers and revamp the payload specialist program, among other things, to make it so that NASA employees could go to space, which I think is a super cool thing. That's amazing. Love that. But yeah, all of these things, and really just streamline NASA to cut out as much bureaucracy as possible so that there's not as much of the chain of command that's kind of clogging up what NASA does. And then also be more like mindful of how you use money and cut out all of these like cost plus contracts, which is really why NASA is why they're having all of these money issues with like projects going over budget and stuff like that. Like you saw this most recently with JWST, the James Webb Space Telescope, that was years and years late and billions upon billions of dollars over budget. And that's really the issue because the way the way that this works is for some weird governmental reason, and this is government contracts, I believe, in general, not specifically NASA, but we're talking about NASA, and it's that. So what happens is they have an initial price for the services, whatever it is, if you're building a rocket, making a system or a software or whatever. But NASA actually pays what basically like the amount negotiated before, but also like expenses after. So the contract itself comes out to much, much more than the initial estimate. And that's really, I think, the reason, besides, so this and delays, but mainly this, why all of these projects are over budget so much is because you get to the end of the program and the cost has like doubled, or more than that, or not exactly that, but it's increased so significantly, and so that's just a major issue. And so that's one of the things. There are other things, and I'll do a full video on this as well. But just to go into more general points now, that's something that I definitely hope that Jared deals with. And now, Project Athena. So, again, it's not a public document, but I will discuss because I've seen other YouTubers discuss it in videos. So I do have some of the points of at least what this was, right? So we'll go over that. So yeah, so it had different things. He wanted to streamline NASA in terms of like the centers that they had as well, and move NASA closer to where like the spaceflight action is happening. So maybe we'd see more stuff in like probably Texas and Florida, right? I mean, there's no reason really. I mean, California also makes sense to an extent, but it's just like because there's stuff there, military and space stuff there, but it's just like you want to minimize the different points where things are to streamline it as much as possible. So I definitely I hope that he cuts down on the amount of centers as well. So that's all very interesting, and again, I'll get into another video about it, hopefully later this week. So now let's move on and let's talk about 3i Atlas. So this is obviously not 3i Atlas. That is, so he is Ari Loeb, I believe his name is. And so he's a professor. And so Professor Loeb, he's been in the news a lot. He's had a lot of, let's say, controversial opinions, and he seems really fixated on aliens. Now, I'm going to do a video update in a couple weeks, another update on 3i Atlas, and mainly whether or not I believe it is technological and stuff like that. But he's done a paper, I believe it's a paper, but anyway, he's set out 14 points about why he believes that it's aliens, that like some sort of aliens are piloting what he believes is actually like a craft. So now, not to get into whether or not I believe aliens exist. That's and also that's a complicated discussion also because what do you think it is? Is it microbial life? Is it like intelligent life more like us? But that would look different. So what are you talking about with that also? So that's another um, definitely definitely something different there. So let's let's talk about all this. So, yes, it is really fascinating. Again, I do not, I think that it's very interesting because he, I, I don't think that we should just be saying always aliens. And again, I'll look over his points when I do the video about whether or not I think 3i Atlas is technological. So that's going to be another video. But I see why people are skeptical. Obviously, I mean, we don't really have that much we don't really have evidence of aliens. All we have at this point, we have like obviously the UFOs and stuff like that. It's not evidence of aliens, it's just that we don't know what it is. Could it be aliens? Yes. Could it be other things? Yes. Like some sort of, secretive military technology, whatever. So that's different there. And so, but let's talk about 3i Atlas itself, because as I covered in another video, and I'll get even more into this when I do that update video later. I don't, hopefully it'll be next week, but you know, in the next month, let's say, because it's the holidays now, so we'll see. So, but 3i Atlas has been doing some fascinating things. So, it's been doing many things, but it's been changing color and it's been changing direction and speeding up. And so there has been all of this discussion about like the nature of 3i Atlas, but also specifically like the nature of its movements. How is it doing this? There's some people saying, oh, it's non-gravitational acceleration. I don't know. I think that I'm just going to say it for here. I think that aliens may exist, but I think that we need to, I guess I just say temper our expectations about what it is that we would find if aliens do exist. And also, I don't think that 3i Atlas necessarily is aliens, maybe, but we'll get into that more in another video. So, yes, it's shown signs of non-gravitational acceleration, it's accelerating, and also it's gotten so much brighter, which I, of all of the things, I think is the least sign that it's aliens, really, because, comets, asteroids, whatever, as they get closer to the sun, they get brighter. That's just something that happens. That's not evidence of, or a sign of aliens. That's just what happens as objects go through our solar system. Planets do this, when they get to opposition every year. As they get closer to the sun, they get brighter. That's just something that happens with objects in our solar system. So that's not evidence of aliens. So, yeah, so I'll definitely be doing more about this. But now let's get to this last story. And this is something that I also put it, I'm going to see actually now. I put it in the description, or not the description, but the live chat. So let's see. And that was just the link to the nature study for this last story. This is not by Ari Loeb. This is by some guy named Sabala. I didn't, because when you look at studies, it often just of these major scientists, these major scientific studies, it often just says the last name. So let's look at this. So yes, and this is something that people have been wondering about whether or not it happens for so long, whether or not it's going to happen. Well, we've kind of accepted that it's going to happen, but as he says in this study, it's actually much less likely than people think, and there's a lot of different factors. Specifically, it depends on what you combine with Andromeda. So, so I'm going to see this because if you just do Andromeda, it's like 50%. If you put in M33, it's more and stuff like that. If you take it out, so there's variables really, and so that's why we really just need more data. So that was what was happening with that, because they did simulations, but at this point we just can't know. And so again, I'll do an updated video about that. Um, Let me see. No, that's not the right one, is it? No, it's not. So yeah, and Andromeda also is really just such a fascinating object as well, to view. I've seen it sometimes in my telescope as well. It's far away. It's like 200. Let's see. Far away is Andromeda? Yeah, so 2.5 million light years. So again, this collision, if it happens, again, because as I said, there are different variables. If it happens, it's not going to happen for like 4.5 billion years. And yeah, it's 2.5 million light years away. So, like, for instance, I've seen it in a telescope. It looks really cool, but it's just like a, you know, fuzzy blob. So, it's very interesting. So, I think we just need more time, more data, more studies. So, and ultimately, we will never know, right? And, however many countless generations won't know because if this happens, it's not going to happen for like 4.5 billion years. So that was just something interesting. And again, I'll do a full video about that as well. So, anyway, that is this live stream. Thank you so much for joining me. Definitely make sure to like the stream and subscribe. And I will be recording more videos next week, as I said, with the lighting. Can't do it today, unfortunately. Maybe tomorrow. But there should be more videos next week, is what I'm saying. There will be more videos up on the channel next week. More about Jared Isaacman, something about Andromeda, like looking at the galaxy itself, and then some other ones. So I'll probably have my 3i Atlas update video there up that week. Again, I don't know exactly when these will premiere, but at least I would like to have them up on the channel next week. So definitely make sure to look out for that. So thank you so much for joining the stream. Definitely make sure to like this video, subscribe if you're not subscribed, and I will catch you in